So we've got the rockers back on now, and what we're going to do now is adjust the valve lash. So you can see this valve is quite loose, and this one here is quite tight. This is the exhaust, this is the intake. I've got my engine turned to top dead center so that the piston is basically at the highest end of its stroke. And we're going to set the valve lash at 0.003 of an inch, so 0.003 on your feeler gauge. And what we'll do is we're just going to insert that in, and then we'll tighten down till it's snug. Tighten the lock nut on there, and then recheck the gauge, and then we'll adjust the exhaust. So when you're tightening down the lock nut, you want to keep a wrench on the adjuster nut so that it doesn't move. And then you'll tighten the lock nut down against that without moving the adjuster nut. And then you're going to check your play. And you see how right now the feeler gauge is clamped in there? So now what we need to do is we're going to just loosen the lock nut. And then back off the adjuster nut just a little bit, and then try tightening it down again. So our feeler gauge moves nice in there. We want to make sure it's not too loose, so we're going to put a 4th thou in there. So we can't get the 4th thou in there, so that means the 3 thou. It's good. Now the 3 thou is fitting a little tight. Try putting the 2.5. I want to back off on that adjuster just a little bit, and one trick we'll try is just keeping the lock nut where it needs to be, but I adjusted the loosen the adjuster nut just a little bit. Good times with the trimmer. So still a little too snug, so we're just gonna so right now it's actually at about 4 thousandths. We'll leave it there. I've seen anywhere from 2 thousandths to even 7 thousandths. to adjust the exhaust. So it feels good. Now we're going to just rotate the engine around a couple times. And we're just going to check again. Okay, so both are adjusted at 4th thou. We're going to call that good. Okay. Hopefully that all stays together properly. Now we're going to put the valve cover back on. Okay. When you're done, valves are adjusted. You're good to go. Quick update. So I had adjusted my valve lash, or I thought I had adjusted it properly, but my engine was really, really hard to pull. I knew something was wrong. Went on YouTube, looked at a bunch of videos, couldn't really find anything. So pulled the valve cover off, and on a 4-stroke engine, there's 2 top dead centers. And what you want to make sure is when you're adjusting the valve lash on your Predator is that the intake valve has basically come off the cam. So you rotate around your engine, make sure you're rotating it the proper direction. The exhaust valve is opening right now. And now the intake valve is opening. So it closes, and then we're going to look inside the spark plug hole. And right here, our engine's at top dead center. I've got the correct lash. When I did it the first time, the engine was at the other top dead center. So basically the exhaust valve had come back in. Everything seemed fine, but when I rotated over 360 degrees, I found that the exhaust valve was super loose, like 1/8 inch lash, just a huge amount of lash. And that's what was causing the very hard pull on the engine. So I reset the engine back to the correct top dead center where the intake valve had come off its extension and that the engine was at top dead center. I reset the valve lash at 3 to 4 thousandths and put my spark plug back in, repulled the engine, and it turned over very nicely. So make sure you're doing that properly, because if you set your valves the other direction, that 360 degrees out, you could really screw up your exhaust valve because it's essentially going to float. So yeah, top trick, make sure you do it right. So now we're going to do the first start of the modified cycle cart engine. Hopefully it all starts up properly. So just to review, we've installed a Mikuni carburetor on here. We've changed the valve springs to the 18-pound valve springs, added a new coil, removed the oil sensor, and then installed a new exhaust. So overall, quite a few modifications. Also added a remote kill switch, so that's enabled right now. Turn the engine on, put the choke up, cross your fingers. Awesome. So started right up. And again, started up properly after I had to redo the valve lash because I basically had done the initial adjustment at the wrong top dead center. And now it's all good. So I'm pretty excited. So we'll get the cart down and see how it drives real quick, and then